Imagine a world where AI isn't just answering customer questions, it's driving business growth, where conversations just aren't automated, they're intelligent, strategic, and even profitable. That world, it's not the future, it's happening right now. And at the center of this revolution is Paul Roberts, co founder of Taalk, a company that's just not improving customer engagement, but rewriting the rules of how businesses and AI work together. Taalk's AI agents don't just reply. They think, they sell, they learn, they turn missed opportunities into revenue, data into strategy, and automation into something that feels almost human. But here's the real question. If AI can hold a conversation, close a deal, and build relationships, what does this mean for the future of business? That's exactly what we're unpacking today. Paul isn't just building AI tools, he's creating a new kind of workplace, one where AI isn't in the background, it's on the front lines. So if you're ready to see what happens when businesses stop using AI as a tool and start using it as a partner, this episode is for you. Let's get into it. Welcome to Lead with AI. I'm Dr. Tamara Nall. In each episode, we will take you behind the scenes with visionary leaders shaping the future of AI across public and private sectors. Join us as we explore groundbreaking projects and innovations that are transforming industries and making a real impact on people's lives. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Tamara Nall, the host of the Lead with AI podcast, and I'm joined today by Paul Roberts, co-founder of Taalk AI. Welcome, Paul. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks so much for having me. How you doing?
I am doing well and excited about getting into the discussion. Glad to have you today. So before we get into a discussion about the tech, let's start with you.
Sure.
What personal moment flipped the switch for you when AI stopped being code and became a cause?
Good question. It really was the moment when, I'd met my co-founder. He was showing me what he's working on. And it was really that moment I listened to a single AI agent resolve a very complex customer issue in about 40 seconds.
Wow.
Something that, in my opinion, probably would have taken a human maybe 10, 20 minutes. And we've all been on those calls. Odds are we probably would have gotten 2 or 3 transfers to different people. That's when I personally realized, this isn't about replacing humans. I think that's a big misconception. It's really about, elevating the human experience by removing all those friction points from every conversation that matters to a business. At that point, AI was no longer, here's the code base, here's software. It really became our mission at Taalk to reinvent how companies are building satisfaction and more importantly, performance at scale.
Great. And so when you talk about that moment, what is the jaw drop moment where a customer can put in something complicated like you described, and then they see Taalk for the first time in action?
It's really when, they give us and again, we say this all the time, it's very similar like machine learning, good data in, good data out.
Yes.
A bad process will not be made better with AI, in my opinion. So for us, it's when we see a very complicated process that would take multiple teams in an organization to handle, and that AI agent can, number one, engage with the consumer, understand the needs, wants, et cetera, of the consumer, and then interact with their current workflow. So for me, that's really the aha moment for a lot of companies when they can say, okay, I see how this works now. Not only does it sound human, have empathy, all the key things that a human does, but it can also work within the process, procedures, and confines of the organization.
Wow. And in terms of how AI is reshaping customer engagement, how does Taalk make that shift between that seamless feel and what's natural for businesses since it's so automated?
Sure. The way that we thought about Taalk and built it out was really to feel like an extension of the company or the brand. Not like a bolt-on of, hey, add this chatbot to the site, give it a couple answers here and there. When are we open? We open on Sunday? Sure. All of our AI agents are trained on the actual workflow of the organization. We mimic the tone, the real customer journey. So they don't just answer questions. They're really all about guiding outcomes. Integration has to be invisible, but the impact is immediate and, more importantly, measurable.
And are there certain industries that work better for talk than others, or is it industry agnostic?
It's really industry agnostic, but where we try to focus as an organization is large scale customer engagement companies. So think about your auto insurance company, your credit card company, your airline, et cetera, where they're either constantly outreaching to customers or people are constantly calling in. We are a business. We love scale. So that's where, we've had some phone calls. People say, I own three restaurants in New Jersey. Can I use AI? I said, in all reality, just hire somebody to answer the phone.
Got it. Okay, got it. And then there's this balance between automation and humanity. And then how does Taalk blend both of those?
Sure. We get that question quite often. In my opinion, the magic is really in what we call like micro decisions.
Okay.
Our agents don't just follow scripts. It's not a decision tree of if this, then that. They understand context. They can adjust tone. If somebody's very upset calling in, they're going to use a soothing voice, a calming voice. They actually can mirror human empathy. So if you had an opportunity, to really peek inside of a Taalk AI agent, and I think what you'd really find is a mix. It's going to be behavioral data, adaptive language modeling. How do I mimic that human behavior? And really industry-specific logic stacks. So our AI agents have to know everything in the world about the topic of home insurance, about life insurance, et cetera, whatever the AI agent is tasked with. So it's not really AI versus human anymore. It's really AI plus human. That's the secret sauce. And I think people have to understand that it's not here to replace you guys. It's here to make everybody work better, more efficiently, et cetera.
Right. And if we could open up the brain of Taalk AI, what would we find that would surprise us?
Yeah, I think it's, very different than a lot of AI agent companies where they're using a Claude or a ChatGPT or one of these open source models. We build AI specific agents that are really focused, like I said, on the topic at hand. So I get phone calls like everybody else. If I think it's AI, the first thing I ask is, hey, how long is it going to take me to walk from my house here in New York down to Miami? I want to get warm. A lot of times that AI will start answering the question.
Right.
So, we realize, okay, this isn't the best use case here, but we build almost what we're calling like a small language model. So it's very, very specific for the industry, for the task at hand. So some of our clients are building 10 or 15 different AI agents to handle almost micro tasks along the consumer journey.
And if I'm a new customer, how long does it take for you to know my industry and then specifically know my company in the same tone that I would if I was a human?
We usually have a pretty in-depth onboarding process. The first 48 hours of working with Taalk. One good thing is we've focused on some specific verticals. So if you come to us as an auto insurance carrier, we have a pretty good idea of what the agent should look and feel like, and the tasks they're going to handle. But again, State Farm is very different from Geico in their offering, the brand presence, the tone, et cetera. So we have it probably takes about a 30-minute questionnaire where we're going to ask you, what does your best agent project to your customers? How does it sound? What are keywords you love to use? And it's funny when you hear these brands, you hear certain keywords in the back of your mind. So we're typically telling our partners it takes between 4 to 7 business days for your agent to be fully launched and dialing.
4 to 7 business days. Wow, that's in no time at all.
Correct.
Oh my goodness. So what about a client win or a client case that still to this day gives you goosebumps?
There's a couple of them, but there's one of our clients, they were really focused on the real estate space, and they were saying, we've tried all these different we had an agent who basically launched his own AI agent on Thursday. It worked over the weekend, took phone calls, and he came in Monday with about 72 appointments booked on his calendar.
Oh no.
He didn't believe it. So, guys, something's broken. Check my AI agent. What's going on here? Something must be off. And we literally sent him, a handful of the voice recordings of the agent interacting with people who are calling in to list their home. And he was kind of blown away by that. And that was kind of when we, geez, this could really be a game changer for a lot of different industries.
Oh my gosh, what did he do in that situation? He just had to spread the 72 out, huh?
Yeah, well, it was over the course of a month. So lucky for him, he wasn't running around, driving from house to house. But, he immediately introduced us to his VP of development. And now, luckily we have more agents in his his firm working with this, but it was that was one that kind of stuck with me.
Paul, that is amazing that Talk AI helped him do that. I mean, what a game changer for him.
Correct.
That's like next level, life changing.
Yeah, and we're seeing that. It's interesting where a lot of, let's call it the older school industries who are adopting this are realizing, the scale and predictability is something they've never really been able to get out of a human workforce. But what they can do now is plug AI in, like I said earlier, with a good process, good procedures, and now take a lot of that, grunt work. Or listen, nobody likes cold calling. Nobody likes handling those customer support calls. And now if you have a dedicated AI assistant to do that, it frees you up to do things that are going to be very focused on revenue generation, et cetera.
Higher level. That is. Now you mentioned, there are some industries. Which industries are kind of slow to adopt technology and might miss out in the next 12 months?
There's banking is a tough one for us. The banking folks, they're very much about, hey, we want people to walk into the branch, and obviously there's forward-thinking banking companies and fintech companies, but a lot of the older school banking folks are, we want somebody to know their banker, et cetera. We want them to kind of work with them specifically. It takes a little bit of hand-holding, but I think, as we said earlier, it's not a matter of if, but when you're using this type of technology.
Right.
And using it in a way that actually offers real benefits to your customers and also to your bottom line.
Right.
It's a real source of pride for us when we see those people kind of come around and say, okay, this is going to be something we can use. Right.
And you can get with it and be forward thinking, or you can be left behind. But either way, it's coming. It's already here.
It's coming.
Now, how does Talk leverage AI to continuously improve engagement strategies?
Sure. So when you think about it, it's, every conversation teaches the system something new. With the amount of calls and, countless, tens of thousands per minute, it's just, it's always learning. So we use a specific closed loop feedback from outcomes. Clients will use this for lead qualification, appointment setting, customer support, and it learns how are objections handled? What are the drop-off points? And this is all used to really retrain the agents. And this isn't really a set it and forget it model. A lot of people think, oh, let me just sprinkle some AI onto my business and we're good. It's what we consider almost like compounding intelligence. And we see that in the performance data, because we'll see that, an AI agent out of the box for, company A can handle 25% of the customer service calls. And a month later, it's handling 40%. And we slowly click up. The leads, more leads get converted, more customer service requests are solved in a timely manner, because it's constantly getting smarter, constantly learning from the conversations.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's amazing. So do you feel like traditional customer service and sales efforts are becoming obsolete?
I wouldn't say obsolete. One area I hope to see go away, and if you've ever called it, the call queue. No one wants to, quote, wait for the next available agent. I called my local electric company here in New York the other day, and I waited on hold for 27 minutes.
Yeah.
I just think that's not a thing that should happen anymore. With Talk, every customer gets a personalized experience now.
Immediately.
Now. You don't wait. There's no, hey, press 1 if you want us to call you later. And companies love it because the response is instant, number one. But the customers really love it because they feel heard. It's that mix of, the trust and satisfaction at speed. That's the upgrade, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I've been in situations where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to press 1. They're going to call me back. And then I get the call back and it's a spam and I don't answer it. Then I have to call back.
Yes. Or you're picking your kid up at school, or you're doing something. Right. It's just, there's a million, unfortunately we live in a world now where it's now. Right. I want to see somebody now. And, I'll typically choose that chat function on a site rather than a phone call back, because at least I'm getting my problem solved.
In that moment. Absolutely. I'm a chat lover as well. Although it'd be easier if it could be solved in another way, so that way I'm not taking the time and, oh, we haven't heard from you in a while. We're going to disconnect you now. I get that a lot too. So what's one old school practice that Talk is quietly killing, but no one's talking about?
Sure. I would almost go back to my prior answer. It's that instant gratification, instant solution that we're all kind of searching for as consumers, where I think what you see now is, again, it's people want to snap their fingers. I want to order food. It's at my door in 10 minutes. So it's almost that instantaneous solution. And also I think just as a generation, we're moving through this world. We're getting a lot more accepting of AI. So there was a lot of, let's say pushback, which I think is kind of, moving away.
Yes.
Where it's, hey, a human has to answer this, or a human has to. I think we're just being so much more accepting of this type of technology.
Right. And I think in terms of customers, after it's over, you're like, okay, was my issue resolved? Yes, it was. So does it matter whether it was a person or an agent? And in many instances, you don't even know it was an agent. It's, you thought it was a real person. That's like the power of AI.
We hear so many, we do a ton of QA for our clients. We'll hear phone calls where it's, honey, come in here. I think I'm speaking to a robot or an AI. I'm not really sure. And
that's funny. So how does Taalk AI handle sensitive conversations? How do you keep it from crossing those ethical lines?
Sure. Compliance is probably one of the core things we built the company on. For us, it's compliance, scalability and performance. So compliance, we really start with the consent and context. Number one, there's a lot of rules and laws about who you can call, who you can't call, using AI, et cetera. And every Taalk AI agent is transparent. They're purpose-built and really trained just not on logic, but really on the limits of what they can and cannot discuss. So ethical guardrails are really built into every conversation.
Great.
And that goes back to the core technology of building this small language model versus an open source model.
Yeah.
How long does it take me to walk to Miami? You could ask some pretty nefarious things if you want. So it really has a model with a limited input of knowledge on specific topics. Like I said, auto insurance, home services, et cetera. You can't ask our agent endless questions, and that really prevents a lot of those ethical concerns. It just won't have the answers. If you really pressed it and said, well, I want to know this, I want to know this, after 2 or 3 times, we default and basically say, hey, you know what? I don't have that information for you. Let me transfer you to my supervisor. And then we would transfer that to a human who could handle it.
Okay, perfect. No, that's amazing. So what's a myth about conversational AI that if you could permanently delete, you would?
I think what we hear quite often is that AI can't build a meaningful relationship with a consumer. I see that proven false every single day. AI, it delivers a consistent, respectful interaction that does earn trust over time for a brand. And we see, specific AI agents call back 5 or 6 times to check in on a consumer, and you hear, "Oh, hey, Sarah, thanks so much. Hey, how you doing?"
Right.
It's, and as humans, we always are, relationships start with reliability, with trust, all those things. And, that's what AI delivers best, in my opinion. It's that continuous and predictable communication where it doesn't get upset, doesn't get worked up. We joke around, our AI agent, you can make 50,000 phone calls and tell it to go jump in the East River in New York. That 50,001 call, it's, hey, how are you? How's everything going today? It's not going to be upset. It doesn't need to go outside, and, take a break and get fresh air.
Right. No lunch breaks.
Right.
So paint us a scene. It's 2030. A business is scaling globally. How is Taalk making that expansion seamless?
Well, we've actually been tasked with this, and it's only 2025, but I'll give you some ideas here. A company will launch in 3 countries on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, they have AI agents that are selling, supporting, and speaking in 5 different languages across every channel: phone, SMS, email. No hiring, no HR issues, no onboarding lag, no, okay, everybody come in Monday morning. We're going to learn about this product. It's really, the ability now to have a global presence at the flip of a switch, where you could basically train these agents. They could learn very quickly, launch an endless amount of them. And there's no limitations on, regional languages, et cetera. It's just, like I said, you create the agent in a couple minutes and they're live.
How powerful is that for the solo entrepreneur that wants to have a global presence and a global expansion? And I can be in 3 countries or more in its own individual with cultural context.
Correct.
And that short amount.
I call this the age of the entrepreneur, because there's really no limitation if you have a good idea.
Yeah.
can use AI to scale every aspect of your business, from forming your corporation to building a website to building a business plan to predicting your financials. Then all of a sudden, you can have an entire AI workforce behind you growing your business.
Wow. Woo. Chills.
Yeah.
Chills.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with the future of AI that keeps you up at night?
Well, besides my 3 kids growing old,
You have a beautiful family, by the way.
thank you.
Very beautiful.
One of my biggest concerns is the use of AI, and I worry about an AI world where speed and efficiency is going to trump that sincerity or interaction with real consumers or customers. Companies now, they want to use AI and automation to potentially cut corners instead of enhance the value that the clients or customers are getting. Really not our vision at all at Taalk. We believe that the AI, it should deepen that connection. Should be used to further your interactions with your consumers, not dilute them or just turn into, a metric in a spreadsheet of saying, okay, this person was satisfied, move on. And we give people ideas all the time. Like, your clients sometimes only hear about you when it's bad news or they owe money.
Right.
Why not a quarterly check-in, a weekly check-in of, hey, is there anything we should be doing differently? How can I help you? And they just think differently because they would need a human workforce to achieve that. So we see this a lot also in the fundraising or nonprofit space where, okay, hey, you're only calling me when it's time to raise more money.
Right.
I'd love to know an update of how I donated money last year. How did that, what was that used for? So correct. Where you would have to hire a lot of humans to do that. Now AI can do that on a very predictable, scalable, way going forward.
Right. So for anyone that's still on the fence, what's one simple action they can take this week to experience the power of Taalk,
sure,
the power of AI, and never go back?
I think people are kind of blown away when they see what we've built. So yes, we love, reach out to us. We're obviously on LinkedIn. We're at Taalk, TAALK.ai. You can schedule a demo. You don't need to become a client. We want to show you what the future looks like.
Yes.
I tell people all the time, they go, I don't want to be pitched. I said, I'm not the pitching type. I'm going to show you what this can do. And it either works for you or it doesn't. But I think when people kind of visualize it, because everybody's here is, oh, AI agent. Where is this, in the cloud? How does this all work? But I think when they see how you actually build an agent, so not a big shock. We actually created an AI agent to help you build your AI agent. But walking you through that process and the questions that we ask are very thoughtful and methodical. And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, you have this AI agent that you can use.
Mm-hmm. And I don't need code or development experience.
All right. It's no code. I think that's one of the biggest challenges with AI right now, the cost of ownership.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of people come and find Taalk after they've spent tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in countless development cycles.
Yeah.
And they don't have what they want.
Right.
So we took a very methodical approach of making this very simple to use UI. And we tell people all the time, the CMO could use it, the CEO, or the summer intern. And the biggest joy for us is, everything we do for you, we do in your own UI, and we record it so you can see how we did it. But that day when you go in and build out your first AI agent without any assistance from us, we celebrate in Slack. We're like, hey, this client just built out their own agent. Let's go. This is awesome.
Right. And for those who don't know what UI stands for, tell them.
UI is user interface. So it's basically the dashboard. So, when you log in, you're going to have, a dashboard with all your AI agents, their tasks, etc. But we tried to take an incredibly complex technology. And like I said earlier, make it as simple where the intern could build them, you could build them, anybody in the organization.
That is phenomenal, Paul. I mean, kudos to you and your team and what y'all are doing with Taalk to reshape the world as we know it. I mean, I'm still stuck on the overnight expanding in all these different countries with language and culture incorporated. That is absolutely amazing. So, as you know, and for those guests who are watching that might have not watched before, we always ask our current guest a question that a previous guest asked. And so, Paul, drum roll, please. Your question: how does one acquire good taste in life?
Ooh, not an AI question. Hold on, I gotta shift my head for a second here. In my opinion, good taste comes from exposure and curiosity. 48 years old, I've seen a lot, done a lot, ups, downs. You have to really get out of your comfort zone, experience life to gain good taste.
I love that.
I talk to people and say, I've never been west of the Mississippi or south of North Carolina. I say, I can't really, number one, probably be friends with you, but you have to get out there.
Right.
I've visited probably over 45 countries in my 20s. I backpacked around the world by myself.
Oh.
And I think that really helped me experience a lot, and not only experience a lot, but see life from different perspectives. And some of the most unforgettable moments, I think, that helped me develop taste weren't planned. I remember I was in Italy on the Amalfi Coast, and somebody overheard me speaking in my beautiful New York accent and said, "Oh, New York, yeah." And they invited me to dinner with their family.
Aww.
And the food was simple, local. I watched the mom make the pasta, and it was made with love, and it was probably some of the best food I've ever had.
Right.
And honest, I've been chasing that meal for the last 20 years of my life. But everybody always say, what's your best Italian food? And I would tell, oh, it's not this, Rayo's in Manhattan or one of these, fancy restaurants. It's something different. And I think that's where taste is developed in moments like that. You learn to appreciate authenticity, quality, things that matter. And, as a leader and an entrepreneur, I think good taste shows up everywhere in what you do. It's how you build your team. It's how you treat people.
Right.
And more importantly, probably what you prioritize. Like, obviously you see my family in the background. I tell people all the time that, business will be here on Monday.
Yes.
Go figure out your family.
Exactly. I love that. And I love your answer around being open-minded and having a level of curiosity. That's amazing. So now we're going to move into rapid fire. So I'm going to quickly name off 5, 6 things and you answer. Most overrated tech trend right now.
All right. Staying with the AI theme, I see a lot of companies coming out with just a AI agent, just a standalone agent. I think that's kind of, not really helpful to most companies. I think it's got to be part of a platform that you could automate and actually have an impact on your business.
Right. Love that. Good advice. Good advice. Most underappreciated AI that deserves more attention.
I would say real-time objection handling. The fact that this piece of technology can hear countless tens of thousands of humans a day, and everybody has a different objection, and it can understand and learn and get smarter and better. I think that's a superpower, especially for any sort of outbound sales call or lead generation for any company.
Right. Okay. One book everyone should read.
Well, 2 books, if you don't mind.
Okay.
One book that I was given at 17 years old, which I think had a huge impact on my life, is The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino.
Okay.
You could probably read it on a short flight, a very short book, unbelievable book. And regarding AI, I've been sending a few of my friends The Coming Wave by Mustafa Suleyman. He's currently the Microsoft AI CEO and was a co-founder at DeepMind, and probably, in my opinion, one of the best. He talks about things that I kind of got to put the book down and say, I got to think about this for a second before I keep going. So sorry.
Okay. No, I got to read that one. I love that. An essential skill business leaders need to develop to thrive in this AI-driven world.
I always talk about emotional intelligence as probably being the number one quality for business leaders. Challenging to develop, in my opinion. I think some people are born with it, but every successful leader I've always seen, I've walked away saying, man, he's got the EI is pretty high there. And I think it's going to be, as crazy as it sounds, even more essential in the near future, because we're building out these synthetic environments with AI. And I think that human, is going to be even more important of how you relate to people, how you communicate with people, how you treat people. That emotional intelligence will probably be even more critical in the future. Amazing.
Technology you're most excited about?
A robot that could fold laundry for all my. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, we're close. We're close.
All right. I'll be the first one. I'll put the deposit down today if they have that. But
we are very close. Very, very close.
Jokes aside,
we're kind of there.
I wish. Yeah. The 2 biggest battles in my house is who's doing the laundry and what's for dinner. But
yeah. And there will soon be robots for that too.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think on the AI side, I think it's really, there's going to be and it's happening now. It's really the convergence of this conversational AI that could speak, it could message you, and really autonomous decision making, where it's going to just continuously get smarter and smarter. And even a talk, we're moving beyond the AI agents, the automations, and really to a future where these agents can understand very complex context, intent, outcomes, operating with a level of autonomy that can, in my opinion, scale human, actions and performance in ways we haven't seen before. So it's really taking that core AI and just adding on to it with some more pieces.
Right.
Right.
Amazing. Well, Paul, thank you so much for having this discussion with us, this coffee style conversation about Taalk AI and all the great things that you're doing. Can't wait to continue to follow your success with the company and what y'all are doing and changing the world. But again, before we leave, tell us, if we're interested in Taalk AI, how do we get in contact?
Sure. Easiest way is visit the website. It's Taalk, TAALK.ai, or you can actually email me directly if you'd like. It's Paul at Taalk, TAALK.ai. I'm on Twitter, not as active there, but also very active on LinkedIn. Love following other people. If you're doing cool stuff, love to connect with you, see what you're up to, and learn from each other.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you again. Thanks for tuning in to Lead with AI. I'll see you next time as we continue exploring the cutting-edge innovations shaping AI across the public and private sectors. Until then, keep leading with AI.